Welcome to the Kimberly Guilfoyle Show. We are live on Rumble, where facts come first and where news is done right. And we begin a new era in global trade. President Trump is cutting taxes, slashing regulations, increasing energy production, lowering costs, and promoting fair trade. For far too long, too many presidents have stood by. President Trump is taking on the challenge, full speed ahead. Because ultimately, it's about achieving the American dream for every working family and every city and town across the country. Watch.
On tariffs, what we just saw was a president who did what he said he was going to do. Every single day, the media said Trump is running on tariffs, and people said, we know that. Trump is running on bringing back manufacturing. People said, we know that. And they went and pulled the lever for him. This is mind-boggling to me that the media is focused on Payne. You know, listen to me. I heard someone earlier today on another network say that countries send us wine, cheese, and Mercedes, and we give them a piece of paper, as if, like, we're getting the better end of the bargain. People sweat. They work hard. They sacrifice families. Families are broken up. People commit crimes for this piece of paper. It represents an investment, our life, our energy. It represents a lot. So we send it over there. We get all this plastic crap on this table. You know how that money comes back to this country? They buy this building. They buy our farms. This system is unsustainable. It's unsustainable. We have to figure it out. So if the American people can make a short-term, you know, hey, that beach ball costs 50 cents more, I won't buy it. This is what's really amazing to me. And unfortunately, I hear it on all our network and a lot of networks that somehow we all want a good GDP. We all want a good economy. But does it have to come at the expense? Is it patriotic to always stay in debt? Is it patriotic to spend my entire paycheck so that the economy is good? Is it patriotic so my kids can't afford to go to college? I don't have a retirement. I don't have a decent home. Is that patriotic? Is our patriotism tied to Wall Street, or should it be tied to our own personal ability to achieve the American dream? We need to rethink all of this.
I like that. I like it a lot, actually. And meanwhile, the Democrats are in complete disarray, and we're not even joking. As a new bombshell book chronicles how former Vice President Kamala Harris was, quote, very annoyed with Barack Obama, and she sought his endorsement to be on top of the 2024 Democratic ticket, and even claims that it was Obama who wanted an open primary amid fears she had no chance to win. And ask yourself, what does this new Democratic Party even stand for? I'll tell you. Open borders, making excuses for antisemitism, and putting the rest of the world above the health and welfare of we, the American people. And joining me now, former RNC's spokeswoman, Elizabeth Pipko. What a pleasure to have you on the program.
Thanks for having me. Good to see you.
Fantastic. Good to see you as well. So first off, let's get your reaction to President Trump's, mission to reorient, global trade. What does it mean for Americans, all across this country who showed up to support the president in November?
I like that you played that clip of Charles Payne in your intro. I think the fact that the media is trying to spin this into something that it's not is almost laughable at this point. The fact is Donald Trump ran with a campaign that people paid attention to. And he ran during a time when not only the commander-in-chief, but also Kamala Harris was running against him, was basically hiding from the American people. So not only was Donald Trump running a campaign, he was really the only person in the media every single day talking about the future of this country. Every single promise that he made on the campaign trail, I know he plans to keep in the White House. He spoke about tariffs on the campaign trail. He spoke about putting America first, and he spoke about changing the status quo with how things are done in this country in regards to how other countries treat us. The fact is, nothing that he's doing is new. It's what he's been talking about, not just for the last few years, but for his entire career. The American people voted for him for a reason. They're actually excited about this, and the media cannot spin it no matter how hard they try.
No, absolutely. And it's very consistent. I love that you point that out. This is a man who told this to American people: if you elect me, this is what you can count on. This is what I believe in. This is what I intend and will do. And in fact, just that has happened. And it really is showing, a divide, I believe, in the priorities between the president and the other side, quite frankly, because this is an effort to reverse decades of damage, Elizabeth, that have been done to workers. When did Democrats decide that that was a bad thing? They're certainly not, the party of the working class.
I don't even know what the party is anymore. They're not the party of the working class. They're not the party of the minority voters. They're not the party of the American people anymore. And that's what matters. The party of JFK is dead. It has been on a decline for many, many years. But when Donald Trump ran in 2015, he put that final nail in the coffin, and he showed the American people what has happened to this party. It's actually really sad. You and I, we might stand on this side of the aisle, we might support Donald Trump, but I know that you want a strong country. I want a strong country, and we want two parties that actually stand for the American people. Even if we might think solutions look different, we want them to be supportive of the people of this country. And the Democrats do not support the American people. They do not support the American worker. They have lost their way. The only thing they stand for right now is enriching their own pockets and trying to harm Donald Trump. That is all that they have left. It has become so sad to watch. And I mean, it's entertaining knowing that the future is on the line and that they have no clue what to do in 2028 or 2032, whereas Donald Trump actually put us on the road to many, many successes. He set a precedent, and he also put out a winning recipe for people to follow. So I know Republicans know exactly what to do and what the American people are looking for. The Democrats actually only know the opposite. They continue to lose. They continue to lose at the ballot box. But more importantly, when it comes to the eyes of the American people who know that this party no longer stands with them, and everything that they once were is out the window at this point.
Okay, and on every issue, we are seeing, truly how destructive the Democrat policies really are, and it's quite disturbing, especially on the issue of anti-Semitism and dangerous pro-Hamas rhetoric. How would you lay out this issue, what it means for this country, and how the Trump administration is handling it?
Yeah, so I talked about anti-Semitism quite a bit these last few years, but I also was a strong advocate for Donald Trump, obviously, and people never understood where I was coming from. Obviously, he's faced many false accusations of anti-Semitism, but more than that, he's obviously trying to be the leader of the free world, the leader of the American people. And I've tried to explain to the rest of the world as I advocated for President Trump, you don't have to be a Jew to want to stand up against anti-Semitism. You don't have to be a Jew to want to stand up for Israel or against terrorists. Donald Trump understands what our enemies look like. He understands who they are. He doesn't support Israel because he feels he has to as a Republican or for the Jewish vote or any other pathetic political reason. He supports Israel and stands up against terrorists because Israel's enemies are our enemies. When anti-Semitism festers in a country, it means more dangers are coming. It means socialism is entering, communism, all these dangerous things. It does not mean that society is doing well when this kind of danger is on the rise, especially with young people. Look at our college campuses. No one that loves this country believes what's going on there is good. You don't have to be a Jew to be concerned when the younger generation is marching with the flags of terrorist groups and burning the American flag. President Trump saw these dangers many years ago. He called it out. Nobody understood where he was coming from. They called him a racist, and now look where we are. People are begging for him to come in and not just save this country, but save the entire world from these threats.
You're absolutely right. And I think he's been very proactive, very consistent again with his rhetoric. By the way, with his first term as president, with his rhetoric on the campaign trail, the promises to the American people, and now delivering on it in a very serious way so the rest of the world sees it. And I think it's incredibly important. Anti-Semitism should not be tolerated. And it's not just a Jewish or Israel issue. It should be an every American issue to make sure. And I always point out to everybody throughout history, we have had one of the strongest, best allies in Israel that we could ever hope for, and really in a very serious geopolitical region of the world. And without Israel, the United States is at risk from terrorism as well. So I think it's just a very important symbiotic relationship, a reciprocal relationship that needs to be revered and protected. And it just brought tears to my eyes, just showing his strength and his leadership as it relates to the hostages. I think you and I both know and believe this would have never occurred if Donald Trump was president. And it breaks my heart because you can't get the beautiful lives and souls and children back that lost their lives to disgusting terrorism. I'll let you comment on that, and I have another question for you.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. I, of course, don't believe October 7th would have happened, but more importantly, if some attack had happened, I know that October 8th would have looked very different, right? Donald Trump would not have stood up like Joe Biden did and sat back as not only our allies suffered, but also dozens of Americans who were slaughtered on October 7th in Israel, right? The fact is, this does not just impact Israel, it impacted Americans as well. And you can remove the fact that Israel is one of our strongest allies and just focus on the kind of attack that this was on American lives And I know Donald Trump would have wanted to put a stop to this terrorist group. The fact is, Joe Biden sat there not only with no response to October 7th, but with no response to the American lives that were still held. There is still one American we believe is alive, held right now. And I believe that he would have been released long ago if Donald Trump was in the White House the day that that attack happened. I don't even know if they would have kept these hostages if that attack happened, because they feared the United States of America. They knew that if they messed with Israel, America would have Israel's back. And under Joe Biden, they knew that that was not the case anymore.
No, did you ever think, we'd get to a point where we even had to debate whether this was right or wrong? It just, to me, it's morally repugnant that this is even an issue open, like, to discussion or to debate. It does shock the conscience, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's just a weird feeling. There's people on TV on every channel talking about these college campus protesters and, actually debating if it's good or bad that they're holding the flags of terrorist groups. It's especially painful when you're seeing them in New York, holding those flags, knowing 9/11 happened. I mean, maybe they're a little too young to realize, but it was in my lifetime. And knowing that they're holding those flags, marching in those same streets that felt that terrorist attack, and basically inviting another one because they stand with every other group but their home country.
To me, it's just now reflecting and looking back, but what do you think now going forward are the next steps when it comes, to higher education in this issue? Because this is something that's very troublesome to me.
It is. Look, I think it's almost comical that Donald Trump, wanting to dismantle the Department of Education, got more negative coverage than what's happened in our universities thus far to cause that reaction from him. The fact is, nobody batted an eye when these campus protests were going on, except for Donald Trump, who was running for office. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris allowed it to happen. They knew that Jewish students were being terrorized. They knew that any student that wanted to go to class and avoid these protesters, they were being terrorized as well. They knew that they were being taught these dangerous materials on our federally funded college campuses. They knew that students were going there and leaving with blue hair, Hamas uniforms on and this really dangerous ideology. They knew this was going on U.S. soil, and they did nothing about it. They also knew that our adversaries were funding these universities, and they did nothing about it. So I think it's comical. People have a problem with Donald Trump wanting to revamp our education system, which I would say desperately needs a change. And I can only hope that what happened on October 7th and what happened in the days following was a wake-up call, the kind of wake-up call that people now are going to understand means that we have to break everything down and rebuild it from the ground up, because we can no longer have these young minds, the minds of our future, going in and being taught this ideology that America is bad and that these terrorist groups are our allies, because we don't know what's going to happen in the future. These are the next generation of leaders, and they're being taught this horrible material by people that our government are funding. It's our really, really huge problem, and I really think the best way to rebuild it is to break everything down and start over, and thank God for Donald Trump doing just that.
Absolutely. And even among themselves, Democrats are divided. A new book claims that Obama wanted, now you heard about this, an open primary. I never believed that Kamala could actually win. Turns out that was quite prophetic. What's your reaction?
Look, Donald Trump was a once-in-a-lifetime candidate. I think for the Democrats, Barack Obama was also that once-in-a-lifetime candidate. I mean, who could fill an arena like Donald Trump can? Really only Barack Obama. He knows what it takes to actually win fair and square and to have that support. And I can guarantee you, he was going around the country saying she doesn't have it. He knew what was going on. He also probably knew about some issues Joe Biden had when he served as his own vice president. He knew exactly what was going on. He knew exactly what people were thinking, because he knew that when he walked out to support Kamala Harris, he couldn't fill an arena himself anymore because he was standing up for her policies, and her track record. So I don't think it's a surprise. I think it's almost funny that they lost their last remaining star, right? All they really had was Barack Obama. But the fact is, he was not blind to the situation in front of him. And he knows, if anyone knows from the Democrats of the last 10, 20, 30 years, what it means to be popular. And he knew for a fact that Kamala Harris did not have that.
No, you're right about that. And let's talk about the impact that all this could have, on 2028. And how can Republicans best position themselves in the upcoming midterms, which are hugely important, especially with narrow majorities, and looking forward beyond then?
Yeah, so people talk about it all the time, right? They say that things change when Donald Trump's name is not on the ballot. I hope people understand, even though his name might not be on the ballot, his policies are. The future of his administration is on that ballot because he has years to go after the midterms, and he needs to have people in place to help him to put those policies forward. The policies that he ran on, the policies that are popular, and the policies that helped him win the presidency. The fact is, Donald Trump is no longer running, right? He's the president of the United States. But without a strong victory for the Republican side in those midterms, he cannot be successful. At the same time, the reason he was as successful as he was is because the Democrats are a giant failure. All of their policies have failed us. Everything that they support, they can only find a tiny, maybe slim majority on Twitter that actually supports them. And if the average everyday American is able to go out and vote and is able to take the day off, take the time, know what is on the ballot, I'm very confident Donald Trump will be very successful.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, this is hugely important, and you've highlighted that because we need Donald Trump to be able to continue to execute and fulfill his promises, and we need good majorities to do that as well. Let's talk about your time, as RNC spokeswoman, where you did a phenomenal job. Great choice, and under Laura and Michael Whatley. What are the keys to messaging at this point as you see them with, a little bit of juxtaposition from then till now?
Yeah, so it's a good question, obviously, because times are changing so much. And I think so many people are now realizing that what used to work in elections no longer works. The fact is the Democrats are still confused, not only how Donald Trump came back in 24, but they're confused as to how he won originally in 2016, because they don't know what it means to actually message to the American people, right? They're political consultants that used to work, that used to know exactly how to sway elections, let's say. It no longer works because the American people have social media at their hands. They have access to every possible bit of information they might need, and they're able to actually make their own decisions. I would say if Donald Trump taught us anything, it's that authenticity is what works. When I tried during my time at the RNC during that last year of the campaign to speak to the American people, I hope that they knew that it was coming from a good place, from the right place, because I know everything Donald Trump has put forward, he didn't always put it forward because it was popular. He put it forward because he thought it was best, and the American people eventually came around. So I'd say the lesson to be learned from Donald Trump is authenticity. You don't always have to follow the polls, right? It's not always about what the American people are saying right now. It might be about what you think is best for them. And if you're authentic in your delivery, they will come around. They will trust you. Donald Trump is the only politician that I have seen trusted in my lifetime. And I can only imagine that is what's going to be successful moving forward for either party.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. You're super bright. You've got a great future, great America First patriot, supporter, and defender of the president, Elizabeth Pipko. We look forward to having you back on again. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.